Hello and welcome to episode 136. What's up, Jason?
I'm Bill, and my business moment is going back to Monday Night Football. Today is the 50th anniversary of Monday Night Football, and the two teams that played 50 years ago, the Jets and the Browns, are playing again. And what Monday Night Football did, looking back, Monday Night Football was the real marriage of sport and entertainment. You had announcers that were entertaining. They were very different than the Sunday broadcast games. You had guests coming into the booth, including President Nixon when he was president, would come in the booth. All kind of Hollywood stars would come in. It was the place to be. It was a very, very amazing kind of a thing. And people would, Monday Night Football became the thing to do. It was actually bigger than Sundays for a while. And the Monday night game was what you pointed to. It was prime time on ABC television. It was big. It was big. So shout out to the NFL for rolling the dice with ABC and creating Monday Night Football. And I'm looking forward to the game tonight as well. I'm wondering if there's going to be any tributes, except all the principals are pretty much gone. Although there was some, you've had a number of people over the years. Joe Namath was a Monday night announcer for a while. Fred the Hammer Williamson was a Monday night announcer for a while. OJ was a Monday night announcer for a while. Right. So we've had a lot of people. We've had a good history.
That's a good name, Fred the Hammer.
Yeah, Fred the Hammer Williamson. And then when he played for the Chiefs, I don't know if you remember, the Super Bowl I, the Chiefs and the Packers. I think it was one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was one. And that's when he was talking about his nickname, Fred the Hammer, and the Packers just blew him up every chance they got. And he said, the hammer got beat by the nail. So, but a fun thing. But I guess let's talk about injuries in the NFL.
And we have quite a few.
It's a bad day to be wearing black and gold yesterday in two different markets.
Indeed it was.
Let's talk about Pittsburgh first. While I'll miss Big Ben more than you will, I'm sorry to see him go. But I kind of think that this Mason Rudolph thing could be a really good thing for the Steelers in a year where they're not going to compete. As we talked about offline with Kansas, there's no way they compete with Kansas City, New England.
No.
And Baltimore.
And
I would rate Kansas City and New England in the fight the AFC right now.
Yeah. And then I think, you look at the games, there's just a lot of teams that are just, it's tough.
But being an Oklahoma State guy, I love Mason Rudolph. Loved him in college. I thought it was a great get by the Steelers getting him in the third round.
Yes.
And I think he also improves the value of James Washington, who really hasn't played a major role up till now, but he will with Mason Rudolph because they played together for 3 years in college plus a year in the pro so far.
And because everybody's least favorite Steeler wide receiver since my boy Limas Swede can't seem to catch the ball, he finally got benched. And that's Dante Moncrief.
Yeah. And he actually makes me long for Limas Swede. Yeah. He's horrible.
Well, Dante Moncrief he got to play with Andrew Luck and a few other players. He never put up more than a couple hundred yards a season. And those were on long ball. Everyone else in the league was saying he's nobody. And of course the Steelers and Steeler fans got all hyped up and what you have to.
Well, yeah. They got you bought low and you thought maybe here's a reclamation project. He had size, he had speed, he just doesn't have hands.
No. And it seems like, and again, it's a 2-game sample plus the preseason, but he also doesn't use his size. Like if he's 6'4", 220, like on those balls that got knocked out of his hands, he didn't use that body to block people out or make himself look like
And we saw DK Metcalf yesterday, who is a big body, showed how to use his body. But I'm not, I enjoyed watching the game yesterday. I'm sorry the Steelers lost, but I took a lot of solace in the play of Mason Rudolph. I thought he came in. I agree he wasn't unprepared because he does get to practice with the first team on Wednesdays. But I thought he came in, stepped into the moment, and I would have loved to have seen him get him the ball back to see what he would have done.
And it was nice, too, because, as everyone has pointed out, it was completely not his fault. That ball literally hit Sidney Moncrief in the hands, and he dropped it into the hands of the defender for the interception. But your first NFL pass in a really regular season game gets picked off. And you come back and you tear it up. He looked great.
I thought it was interesting that every announcer on ESPN and on the NFL Network said that interception was not his fault. It was a result of Moncrief booting the ball and it being picked off. I thought it was amazing that's every announcer said the same thing.
Well, it's nice because, I mean, if you're like, he comes in, it's like, because it's, like we said, it wasn't his first his first pass, was completed to a defender, but it literally was not his fault. With the ball to the receiver in a place where he can catch a first down, and the guy drops it.
Well, let's talk about the other major injury.
Well, I think we saw some more Steelers stuff too. I mean, I think the other thing about the Steelers, when you look at their really young players, Juju Smith-Schuster's 22, James Washington 23, Devin Bush 22, T.J. Watt 24. Now, they certainly have some veterans with obviously Joe Hayden and Cam Hayward and some of that offensive line. But they're also a weird team where a lot of the people that they're really relying on to be great are really young. So maybe Mason Rudolph can come and they can grow, like they're on a different timeline. And, the other thing today is a lot of people have been coming to the defense of Mike Tomlin saying that it's crazy to, talk about, whatever. But I think the one thing you can knock Tomlin for is that he came in he was a defensive backs coach and a defensive coordinator. And I think he did a great job early on of letting Dick LeBeau sort of run his system. But it's been his team for over a decade now. And the defense has had tons of resources. Tons of first-round picks, second-round picks have all gone to the defense under the Tomlin era. And the defense has continued to be pretty inconsistent. And I think if you had a knock against him, I think that would be the knock. The defensive backs, which he was, a defensive back, wide receiver in college, but defensive back coach, defensive this. And that's the area where they seem to have talent, but the talent doesn't seem to always develop, which doesn't around the league. But that'd be my one knock on that, I would say.
Okay.
But we can go to Breeze now and his broken thumb.
Well, you're in New Orleans. What's the mood?
Quietly optimistic. They still feel like they got screwed in that game, despite the fact that they got beat pretty handily. There was a bad call, obviously, early on.
Yeah.
It was a game at
that time. But
it looked like, I think people are optimistic about Bridgewater. They feel like he's still the kind of guy that they can go out and win with. And at the very least, they can hold serve for a little while, which is really all you can ask to do. But
you know who's not optimistic on Teddy Bridgewater? Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan killed him this morning on NFL Network. Or no, I take it back. It was Get Up.
Oh.
I was actually watching Get Up. I was hoping for Ryan Clark was going to be on, so I watched it. But Rex Ryan absolutely crushed Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy Bridgewater is another one of those college quarterbacks that I've really liked, but I was really wrong with everyone else, including Byron Leftwich and the guy from Texas who was the greatest college quarterback I'd ever seen, Vince Young.
Yeah.
But he does seem like when I watch the Saints game, It feels like he holds on to the ball pretty long. When he gets it out quick, and the ball looks good. But he's not he doesn't, he tends to hold on to the ball a little bit long, I think, and that's a little scary.
Well, he did not look good. He did not look good yesterday. And maybe with a week's preparation, maybe he's better. I don't know. But I was not I didn't see the spark. I didn't see in him what I saw in
Mason Rudolph had a nice cockiness, not Baker Mayfield level cockiness, but definitely in the confident, cocky. Whatever that, the varying degree of between confidence and cocky. But and again, you can't knock Bridgewater because I feel like on some level, like you look at what Miami is right now, and you feel like he made a good decision deciding I'll stay with Breeze, I'll stay with Sean Payton, and
Yeah,
but at the same time, the Dolphins offered him a lot of bit of money to start in the NFL, and he chose to be a backup. And I think that says something about Sean
because he'd rather be the heir. I think he felt he'd rather be the heir apparent there if he had to wait than play in Miami with what they had for him to play with.
like I said, I get it. I think it goes both ways. It seems like probably a smart decision, but at the same time, like you never know what's going to happen in the NFL. Here's a chance to be a starting quarterback, and that was a team that still had Laramie Tunsil, the new, the good left tackle that got traded away. They still had Kenny Stills. They had a little bit of hope a couple years ago when they tried to sign him, and he still didn't want to go. And again, like I said, I do think that's a kind of it's a weird one, but you wonder from a competitive standpoint, somebody that would not be a starter to be somebody's backup. It just, I don't know. It's just something to throw out there.
I just got an alert that Jalen Ramsey's requesting a trade after a sideline confrontation with the head coach.
Yeah, and I guess Miami's talking about trading Minkah Fitzpatrick, and the Steelers were on that list. I don't know if they still are right now. But Minkah Fitzpatrick was the 11th overall pick, safety out of Alabama, Nick Saban guy. 2018, he's 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another one, like, what is Miami doing? But apparently the Cowboys, Steelers, and a couple other teams were looking at him.
But Miami wants a number one. They're not going to get a number one pick for him.
No, they're not going to get a number one pick for him. But you got to wonder, like, what's going on behind the scenes. Like, here's a guy you got under control for 4 more years. Again, like Tunsil, a nice young piece. Like, what are you trading? Why are you trading? Yeah, I get. Jalen Ramsey makes a lot of money and a lot.
He wants out. Yeah. Well, Minkah Fitzpatrick wants out. So he initiated all that discussion. Just like, but you know what? We live in a world now where you make enough noise, people get rid of it. If you want to be gone, you can be gone.
But it looks like Brees back in 6 to 8 weeks, presumably with a thumb injury. Roethlisberger obviously on IR, gone for the year.
Well, tell me about this other quarterback
Tyson Hill
on the Saints.
Tyson Hill's great on reverses and, bring him in the slot, bring him in a running back, wild card, like wildcat kind of guy. That's the other thing I will say in New Orleans. People are like, we want Tyson Hill.
Yeah, I've heard
I think he's the perfect backup quarterback. He's the guy that everybody loves because he comes in and he runs trick plays. But and I think Sean Payton likes him and sees something in him, but he runs on special teams. So if you really thought the guy had a future at quarterback, you're probably not putting him in the positions that the Saints continually put him in. I think he's a fun player. I would assume he was good.
Well, any other?
Well, the coach today, basically in New York, basically said that he is not committing for the New York Giants. He's not committing to a starter for week 3. And they asked him, what does that mean? He said, you know exactly what that means. So, like, is that something? He's like, what we're going to imply? He's like, you imply whatever you want to imply. And later on, it said he and Manning have not spoken in at least 24 hours. So, and he did. He went the 16-year-old pick on David Jones, right?
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah, you're kind of in the same position as the Steelers. You're not going to win. You want to start investing in your future now and playing this guy? And the answer is yes. And you know what? If I'm the Saints, I would take a look at Eli Manning with what I've got there that he could play with.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I would take a look. Because you probably get it.
I think you could sell that in New York pretty easily. It's like, here's a guy who did great for us. We're going to send. We're going to continue our rebuild. We're going to send him with a chance to win. The hockey trade that a lot of hockey players get towards the end of their career, which is always nice. Yeah,
the Francisco
you did good for us.
Thing with the Pirates this
we're
year.
Going to move in a different direction. We're going young, but we want.
But we want to give you a chance.
It's really nice. It's a beautiful thing.
Go out on a high note with a good team. Yeah, I like it. So, any surprises to you about this NFL season so far? I know it's only 2 games in.
I don't really think. I didn't expect Lamar Jackson to come out to look as good as he has. I was never in the idiots that said he should have been a wide receiver, but he did. He looks like a completely different quarterback than he did last year. And Marquise Brown and the other Brown that they picked up in the draft, like that team looks like they had a plan and they stuck with it and they look fantastic.
They do look really good. I'm a little bit surprised that
without
Patrick Mahomes
Tyreek
has
Hill
come
for
out
a game and a half.
even better than last year.
Yeah. I was watching after the Steeler game.
He
I just had on
throws
the
an
Red Zone
amazing
channel.
ball.
And they were like, well, there's no other games. And even though the Chiefs are at their 50, we'll go ahead and say they're in the red zone. And Mahomes threw a touchdown on the next play. And they're like, we swear we didn't set that up. Like, it's not tape delayed. Like, that literally happened. We're going to see tonight, but I thought the Browns' defense was going to be their strength. I thought their offense would be fun. But I thought the way their defense played last year with Myles Garrett and adding, the other pass rusher on the other side, I thought the defense was going to be really good, and they got destroyed last week. And I don't know if that was a nice, humbling, you guys bought into the hype all year, even though you shouldn't because you're the Cleveland Browns, or if they're just not as good as we thought they were going to be. And I guess tonight, technically, against the mono-laden team, the team where their quarterback has mono and Le'Veon Bell might not play, isn't probably the best test, but I did think the Browns were going to be a lot better than they were.
Yeah, 49ers at 2-0.
Dressed like a grandma. I didn't really see that coming exactly. But it's funny.
Yeah, I can't. He does not look good.
Who else is out there? I mean, the Chargers are once again were bitten by a bad luck bug with a lot of injuries, so that's pretty normal for them. The Raiders have looked surprisingly competent, especially after the Antonio Brown debacle. I would say that.
Yeah.
And in the NFC, I mean, no, and I never thought Mitch Trubisky was going to be, the face of the league, all-pro quarterback. But he looks as bad as he's ever looked in 2 games. No.
Yeah, I'm not inspired by him. That's a good team.
And I think they could have,
another quarterback. They'd be a lot better.
But I mean, I think they were one of those, Nick Foles, a good Case Keenum year sort of quarterback where it would really make a huge difference. But I would say offensively,
yeah,
they basically took Tariq Cohen and they put him in just as a slot receiver now. And I do love that new back, Montgomery. I think he looks awesome when he runs the ball. He always seems like he's breaking 2 or 3 tackles. Mm-hmm. And I know you want to get Tariq Cohen the ball in space, but I think when you limit him to just being a slot receiver, like you take away some of what makes him scary. Like I think you got to have him in the backfield. You got to give him a couple touches in the backfield a game, and those sorts of things. But I mean, for week 2, I think everything is. I hope the Patriots wouldn't be as good as they are, but they are.
Okay. Speaking of which, is AB eligible next week or not? No, I didn't read it. But
again, if you read, her story is, she basically said that she was hired to paint a mural in his house, and she was bending over painting, and he came out wearing nothing but a tiny towel. Everyone else in that article is, a chef that he didn't get paid, a charity he didn't actually come through for, another worker he didn't pay, people he's breaking. He sounds like a giant asshole, and everything he seems to do, he treats people absolutely terribly. But there's really nothing that scandalous in I mean, you like him even less the more you read, because you just see. I mean, like I said, if you don't even come through for the charity, like you bid $700, you're Antonio Brown, on your own picture that was up for charity, and then you don't even bother to pay them. No, and I guess he'll tell people like, well, I shouted you out on Twitter. That's worth more than I would have paid you, which isn't worth more. Money is money. Twitter shout-outs don't help that much. I mean, I'm sure they help some, but
they did an interview with his stepfather in USA Today. I think it was Thursday. That was absolutely brutal.
Yeah. I mean,
his stepfather crushed him. He made a good point. One of the points his stepfather made is Antonio Brown's mother is looking for a second job right now.
A second job. He already working one job.
If you're Antonio Brown's mother, You shouldn't be looking for any. You shouldn't
Certainly
be
shouldn't
working.
have to go get a second job or drive Uber part time or any of that stuff. No, that's for
So-
sure. But I mean, the Patriots knew everything that happened to him last. They knew about it, and they still played him, and they featured him in the offense, and he was embraced by Tom Brady. So I think the Patriots have told you what they think about it. So, and I would have thought last week.
Yep. But if anybody doesn't believe that those 4 plays were definitely scripted for him in the beginning of the game to make him feel good and get him in and shut him up,
They did that.
They're crazy. Even
And
though
I sort of
Belichick
feel
says they
like
didn't do that.
it seems
They
so
did that.
easy not to play him last week. You're playing the Dolphins, you know? Like, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like in the wake of being 2019 after Me Too and this woman comes out, and I know if you read all the thing, like, there's been settlement talk back and forth, and she never filed criminal charges, and there's a whole, but it just seems like, and I sort of thought the league should have done the Patriots a favor. I mean, I know it becomes a difficult situation because if you take her word right now, then, maybe before, the next Packers-Bears game, somebody comes out and says Aaron Rodgers assaulted me. And I'm not saying, I know that sounds terrible. I'm not trying to say that people would do that, but it's sports. There's a lot of money on the line. Like if all it took is, if no criminal charges are filed and all it took is an accusation, you could have a lot of poor ramifications in sports and gambling and money and betting. So I get why they kind of couldn't do it, but it seemed like in Antonio Brown's case, they probably should have. Or the Patriots should have, just silently benched him. Because again, the Patriots have like a plus 75 over 2 weeks. Their defense is having him a touchdown. And people are talking about Antonio Brown. And they're not talking about the fact that Tom Brady now has more hair and looks younger. So, which is also weird. And I know rich people get stuff and he's got the crazy diet, but,
Yeah.
maybe something else going on. I don't know. Just saying. And he looks faster and, I don't know, maybe he sacrifices kids to the devil. I have no idea what he's doing.
Just saying, right?
Good.
Well, I thought I'd get more love for one of the tweets I put out this week, and I didn't get much love for it. I was surprised. I said, and here was my tweet, Jeff. Robert Kraft and Antonio Brown are both in Miami this weekend. Just saying. Yeah, just saying. It's funny. So I'll tell you something that's not funny. My Pirates giving up 47 runs in 3 games in Wrigley Field. I mean, there's bad and there's just abysmal. And they are rapidly moving past abysmal. That's all I want to say about the Pirates. I love the Pirates. I love the Angels. So I got to find another team in October because neither of my teams are going to be anywhere near.
No, it's not. It's not looking like that.
Anything meaningful in October. Nope. Mike Trout, MVP.
And I think we probably talked about MVP
but
before.
His stats are amazing.
If your team can miss the playoffs and not do very well without you or with you, does it matter? Are you really an MVP? Yeah. And
your argument is best player, not MVP.
And I know, though, it's when they do the wins above replacement, it's like, but, how do we know? I know your math formula tells me he wins more, but it's like, well, they don't make the playoffs.
We don't know.
So I know it's baseball and it's a whole thing and yada, yada. And, and despite that, he puts up insane numbers. He does. It's incredible to watch, insane numbers, but I don't know.
It seems incredible to me. NHL exhibition games start this week. We're going into week 3 of college football, week 3 of the NFL, and the NHL exhibition games start.
And speaking of basketball, we have 2 big stories. First off, USA
go to camp
medal
and start playing exhibition games.
Finished 7th. Yeah.
Finished 7th, beating Poland.
Now, to be fair, there's a lot of NBA players that play internationally now.
Losing to France.
And when you look at the NBA right now, obviously you have LeBron and Kevin Durant and Steph Curry.
There
We
are.
also have Giannis. Uh, who's our big boy in Denver? Who's amazing? Jokic. I mean, you have a lot of that are NBA All
Yep.
Stars, and I mean, you could argue
Rudy
Giannis is maybe
Gobert.
the best player in the
There's a
league.
lot of
You know,
players
there's
they
other
played
players.
against that are NBA
Canada
All-Stars.
has a good team now. I mean, whether Team USA, the Dream Team, back from the cups I had as a kid, whether they were the ones that inspired all this incredible basketball, but I mean, you know, it's not quite as stacked as it would be. Now, obviously, if we had sent LeBron and KD and James Harden and that whole crew, we probably would have destroyed everybody. But we still sent NBA All Stars, and they still came up short, incredibly short. Like no one, I don't think anyone thought they'd come in seventh place.
No, I don't
But
think so either.
most people are like, well, we still got qualified for the Olympics.
I think
We'll
that
figure it
was a
out
shock to everybody.
And the other big Orlando Magic story, I'll just throw it out for our Orlando listeners. They picked up the option on Markelle Fultz. I'm excited. I still have hope. If Fournier can bring back some of that magic he had in the Olympics with France,
it'll be interesting
especially when they
to see
beat
if it
Team
happens.
USA, and if Bamba and Isaacs can take a little bit of a step forward, and Vucevic, continues to be what he was last year, like all they really need is what they really need is what Fultz is. A dynamic outside wing scorer, a guy that can penetrate. Yeah. And if he can play. And again, that's obviously a big if because,
If he can play.
A number of reasons. But he's like I said, he's been a bizarre sports story since he's been in the league for someone that's got very little attention lately. But if he can somehow be even a shell of himself, I guess he's been a shell of himself. If he can come back and regain some of that magic, Orlando would be a team to, vie for the 4 seed, I guess.
It's hard to say where it's all going to play out. I mean, I would love to see good things happen.
We'll talk NBA obviously as we get closer to the NBA
just
season.
getting
Preseason is starting, as you said. And I'm still coming to terms with having to figure out my dislike of Daryl Morey and James Harden, and yet my love of Russell Westbrook. See how that comes together.
I know I'm very conflicted going into the season.
Yeah, the whiniest team
Very
ever.
conflicted.
And
my favorite player,
the whiniest
team I hate, the
general manager in the
most.
history of professional sports, in my opinion. It is.
It's tough. I mean, tough to root for that team.
Well, I would say Capital Taco in Tampa. There's 2 locations.
I guess you got any food moments or any entertainment?
It's really authentic, homemade Mexican food. It's outstanding. You should go. And reasonably priced as well. And then Maria and I went to Screamageddon, which I know it sounds early because it is mid-September, but haunted house season is upon us. And they have 6 attractions you can go to in one thing. So you can hit all 6. Each house is probably 5 to 6 minutes. They all have a different theme. Although one of the houses is just shooting at zombies shooting paintball zombies from a bus. But, it's kind of fun. Yeah. And the nice thing is all the actors in the zombie thing, they have on big masks and you're supposed to shoot them in the head. So, I mean, the guns are attached to the bus, which makes it slightly more difficult, but you can watch it. You can wing them in the head. It's pretty fun, like you would if you're in a real zombie situation. Yeah.
Cool. I ate at Bedlam Barbecue in Oklahoma City, which I've talked about before, but it's at 50th and Lincoln if anybody's in Oklahoma City. And it is absolutely one of the best barbecue places I've ever been, and I like their ribs better than any ribs I've ever had.
That is.
Yeah. Yep. It is really, really good. So I had a combo plate with ribs, brisket, and pork. And last time I had ribs, brisket, and ham. And I've never been disappointed, but the ribs They're those giant St. Louis ribs.
Anyone that knows
not
you,
fatty,
I mean,
trimmed really well. Could fall
if you say they're the best
ribs
ribs you've ever had, that's like, you got to go. That's incredible. I mean, and I've had amazing ribs with you that I thought were amazing. So
you got to go try it.
I'm almost drooling right now. Just talking. I mean, thinking about ribs. I was like, oh my god.
Yep. It's pretty incredible. And if I could take the sauce from the Rib Shack and put, and the sauce at this place is really good, but if I take the sauce from the Rib Shack and put them on these ribs, that would be the ultimate. And then I ate at Black Bear Diner, which I've also talked about, but it's a great breakfast place, and it's a chain, and it's real consistent.
Well, coming up this
I
weekend,
didn't realize they had them in Oklahoma.
I have two more haunted houses to go to, and we're debating about Fried Chicken Fest, so I may have something to talk about. Well, Gus, you've been to Gus. If you told me about Gus, Gus's Fried Chicken is going to be there.
Fried Chicken Fest. And, yeah, I think Gus.
29 other vendors of varying different sorts of chickens, and
it's a pretty damn good fried chicken.
We do not, no. Yeah,
you don't have a Gus's in New Orleans, do you? No, this is Gus's from Memphis. And he's another place, I think, in Mississippi. But his recipe's secret.
Well, we have that. To go to the haunted house at night, you get it for free if you give blood.
Yeah,
so we're going to go to the chicken,
sure,
get the chicken, go get blood, and then go to the haunted house. It seemed like a fair little, Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
That sounds like a good way to get your blood back up, too.
Yeah, there's a bunch of places I know. Surprisingly, though,
Popeyes Fried Chicken Fest. I would be there all day.
Not a Fried Chicken Fest. That's probably it. Because I would say I don't think there's any like
maybe they don't want to take the risk on it.
I think there's places that have like, I don't know when you become a chain officially, but there's places that obviously have multiple locations, but I don't think there's like any sort of chain.
I remember the first time I went to Gus's.
You gotta love places
three
like that.
pieces of chicken in a paper bag with 2 pieces of white bread with it. That's the menu.
Not going to mess around with sides or anything else. Here you go.
Yeah.
This is all you need. It's this good.
Yeah. You do what you do, and that's what you do.
Enjoy.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite places, but I'll probably...
Well, you have to take a couple pictures and send me pictures from there.
I eat there all the time, so I don't think I'm going to fill up on food I'm familiar with. So as Steeler fans, we're excited to go there.
No, that's for sure.
Okay.
Oh, one last thing I want to mention. I want to mention a great book that just came out. Malcolm Gladwell, Talking to Strangers. It's a phenomenal business book, but Malcolm Gladwell has a lot of insight. So he talks about a lot of things, and the premise of the book is when you're talking to strangers, you don't know whether to believe the stranger or not, and your instinct is that you always give them the benefit of the doubt. And he had so many different stories in it that were amazing. Just absolutely. Serial killers, he had everything. All these people that, you would think one thing and you would be wrong. And he talked about sometimes, you think you want to look at the person and decide in person if you believe them or not. And they had this computer model for sentencing prisoners.
Wow.
And the computer model actually was more accurate.
That's pretty cool.
In predicting felons than the judges who were looking at the people. Yeah. So it's great. Great read.
I've heard him on a few podcasts too.
Yeah. Anything this guy writes is good, but it takes him a long time to write something. It's just really he's amazing. He can, in the back of the jacket, somebody says he can make a pencil sharpener interesting, and he can. Just really, really, really good. And I will be watching the Texas-Oklahoma State game on Saturday night, and I'll be talking about that next week.